Broadcasting live from the Jungle Hollow on the plain of Tarkir, this is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome back, everybody.
Yo.
It's Graham here.
James here.
And Kathleen.
Yeah, and Paul over on production, and we're back to the usual three of us.
But I hope you guys all enjoyed the sort of guest episode where we had the Jers come in and talk about...
Gesundheit.
Sorry.
Wow.
We had the Jers come in and talk about older Magic cards.
Yeah, so thanks to Kada and other Jeremy for talking to us about vintage last week. That was a fun podcast. Though
which they renamed Draw Resolve Mulligans Concede.
Right.
Instead of
Draw 7 Resolve Mulligans Concede.
They felt that was closer to what would happen if you were playing
vintage.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's unlikely you'll have two permanents to tap by the time you lose a game of vintage. Also, briefly, their Crack-A-Pack was in fact Italian and not Spanish, and wanted to apologize for that.
We would like to apologize to all our Italian and Spanish viewers and listeners. We are sorry, we are dumb.
Romance languages, yo. Anyway, today we're going to be talking a little bit about Fate Reforged Draft, because now we've had an opportunity to actually get in on some of that. Mm-hmm. And also, there's a new Magic set that was announced that you probably heard about, and we know very little.
But that won't stop us from wildly speculating.
We'll tell you what we do. But first, let's crack a pack this week.
Hooray.
Whenever you want to roll it up.
By the way, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been sending us packs for Crack-A-Pack. We got a bunch at Pack South, and we had a couple mailed to us. And if you send it to us, we will put it in our pile. But since we only crack one a week, it may take a while to get there. But thank you so much, and keep sending them in. 4.
1,
Ooh,
2,
ooh.
3, 4.
Ooh.
Nice.
Modern
Boom.
Masters.
This is a pack of Modern Masters from Nick, who says, "Thank you for hours of entertainment. Here's one for your Crack-A-Pack pool." And it doesn't look
Tampered with?
comically resealed. So
We have some comically resealed packs in there.
Hey, that's a Modern Masters card right at the top.
all right.
Thank you so much, Nick.
I think we have 3 different, not very
Subtly.
subtly tampered with packs that currently I'm putting in the number 1 position on the die.
Yeah.
So it may take us a while to cycle through those. All right. Number 1 in this pack, though, is Fairy Macabre. It's a 2/2 flying Fairy Rogue for 1 black, and you can discard it to exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards.
So if somebody is playing Reanimator, you can hose them.
Mm-hmm. At instant speed.
Exactly. They're like, all right, so I dump, I don't know, what's a good, I guess Grizzlebrand's the classic, but any kind of good demon. And you're like,
old school card, Grizzlebrand.
and then, I don't know.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, he's
Not Modern Masters, though.
He's a really
No,
good Reanimator.
but I mean,
target.
like, if you had this card in your commander deck and you're playing at somebody with your Reanimator spell, what the correct line of play is wait till it hits their bin, and then when they're about to cast their other spell,
you can do it in response.
yeah, in response,
You can wait till they target too.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, actually, that's true. And then it's 2 target cards. So you wait till they declare their target
Doesn't
with their
even-
spell
doesn't
in
even have to be
hand.
creatures.
And then in response, nope.
The wasn't there 2 years ago? I think it was. Was it a Pro Tour or a GP? I think it was just a GP where someone missed an interaction with this. Their opponent
That
was
sounds familiar, yes.
comboing out, and the player who came in second just conceded
Yeah.
without realizing that they had Fairy Macabre in hand.
Yeah.
and could have interrupted the
no.
combo
I can't remember when that was, but that is absolutely something that happened.
because it's instant speed and you can't counter it. 'cause
It's also
middle.
really good against Dredge when they inevitably want to call back their Eternal Witness.
I say, I say you can't counter it, but of course there is Stifle. We know these things. Frogmite.
Boo.
It's a 2/2 with Affinity for Artifacts for 4 colorless. Affinity for Artifacts means that it costs 1 colorless less for each artifact. So if you have 4 artifacts in play, Frogmite is free.
Free.
But
People were excited for this card in Modern Masters, but it kind of fell flat in the Affinity deck.
Well,
yeah.
Nobody was super keen to actually play this guy.
Well, yeah, I mean...
He's okay.
Poor little frog.
He's fine in
The Affinity deck.
certain Affinity decks, but not the one in Modern Masters. It was pretty underwhelming.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what wasn't underwhelming? Amaru Scout. It's a 2/1 Kithkin Rebel Scout for 1 and a white. It's part of the Rebels deck. For 4 and tap, search your library for a Rebel permanent with converted mana cost
And
3 or less and put
there
it onto
were
the
a few.
battlefield, then shuffle your library. Not only were there several rebels, but there were rebel permanent is important because Bound in Silence was a pacifism card.
Yep.
It was an enchantment creature aura that meant the creature couldn't attack or block for 2 and a white that was a rebel. It was a rebel aura.
Yeah, Rebel Aura, yeah.
And so you could, at instant speed, enchant your opponent's creature at the beginning of their end step.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Number 4, Latchkey Fairy. It's a 3 and a blue, pardon me, for a 3/1 fairy rogue with flying. Pretty sweet. It's got Prowl, which is a fun ability. Prowl is 2 and a blue. You may cast this for its Prowl cost if you dealt combat damage to a player this turn with a fairy or a rogue. So it's sort of similar to Raid. It's a lot more narrow than Raid.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to actually connect. You don't. You can't just have attacked, and it has to be with a fairy or a rogue.
But I mean, in the fairies deck, it's really good.
Yeah, but then you get to play this guy on turn 3,
And you get to draw a card.
yeah, when Latchkey Fairy enters the battlefield, if its Prowl cost was paid, you draw a card. So it's just so much better.
Yeah, it's cheaper and it's really good.
Very nice. And
it's,
there's
it's a little narrow. Like, I don't know. Like a 3/1 flyer for 4 is okay, but it's really good in the fairies deck.
yeah. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be the fairies deck because there's rogues.
There are
as
rogues,
well.
yeah.
So all right.
I mean, it's better in the fairies deck.
Festering Goblin. It's a zombie goblin. It's 1/1 for a single black mana, and when it dies, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn.
And gets rid of that latchkey fairy.
Sure,
That's
does.
fine.
Hanakami.
Oh, I saw this card circling the table so many times that I drafted Modern Masters.
Yeah, it's a 1/1 for a single green. It's a spirit, and for 1 and a green and sacrifice it, return target arcane card from your graveyard.
No, this card was not very good.
No, the arcane cards in Modern Masters Draft usually only ended up in the red-blue Storm deck.
Yeah.
And why would you run this green guy
Yeah.
to do that? Also, the art on that is amazing because she's vomiting flowers.
She's a flower face vomiting flowers with other jellyfish.
That looks like a
flowers.
Dixit card.
It really does. Walker of the Grove. He is a 7/7 elemental for 6 green. A 7/7 for 8 mana. Ugh. But when it leaves the battlefield, you get a 4/4 green elemental token. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
That's
this guy was okay.
You can also evoke it for 4 and green, meaning you can cast it for its evoke cost. If you do, it is sacrificed when it enters the battlefield. So the evoke thing is you cast it for its evoke cost and you immediately sacrifice it, so it immediately leaves. So you can get a 4/4 for 5.
Which is really decent.
Yeah, it's what I like about that is that honestly, if you draw this guy and you're on curve to have nothing else to do with your 5 mana,
Yep.
just pay
You
the
just
5
get
and
a
get
4/4.
You get a 4/4, and that's totally cool.
Yeah.
And then if you draw him late game, it's like, oh, 7/7 that I get a 4/4 out of later.
Yep.
Perilous Research. It's kind of interesting. Also amazing art on Perilous Research. It's 1 and a blue for an instant. Draw 2 cards, then sacrifice a permanent.
The relevant time that you want to do this is when you're in blocks and you're blocking. You declare whatever stupid creature you don't care
Like
about
just
as
a
a blocker.
little chump blocker.
Little chump blocker, or even a creature that you know is going to die, but you need to block anyhow. You cast Perilous Research, sacrifice the blocker. So you do it basically. All right, so I declare my blocks, and then I go okay, and you say, all right, no other effects. Before we move to damage, cast Perilous Research, because if once they declare their blocker, if they somehow destroy your creature or something like that, I mean, they could also respond with their own instant, and you'd have to sacrifice something else. But I mean, that's where you're going.
That's where you get hosed, though, is that they can. So you look at a more recent card, Altar's Reap, and that's 1 and a black, but you sacrifice as an additional part of the cost and draw 2 cards. So that they can't do anything to, right? Because you're sacrificing the creature as part of the cost. This one, you put it on the stack, and they kill the thing that you're obviously going to sacrifice and force you to sacrifice something else. That can get dangerous.
Yeah.
But,
However,
it doesn't say non-land. So worst case scenario,
You sack a land you're not using.
You don't lose your giant creature. Old Salty. It's the Saltfield Recluse. It's 1/2 human rebel cleric.
wow, how many subtypes can we get on a card?
For 2 and a white? I believe the most subtypes on a card is 5. It's like centaur, warrior, archer, soldier, or something. Anyway, Saltfield Recluse says tap and target creature gets -2/-0 until end of turn. Kenji drafted a lot of Modern Masters online, and he loves this guy.
Yeah,
'Cause
I mean,
it super messes up combat math.
Yeah, it's super messed up combat math. It worked really well in the Rebel deck. Yeah,
Certainly in multiples.
it's just a very good card.
Street Wraith is a card that I think had absolutely no bearing on Modern Masters draft, but is one of the cards that showed up in certain decks. I think Dredge.
Maybe.
I think made it. It's one of the reasons that they reprinted it. It's a 3/4 Wraith for 3 black
Oh, that's really expensive.
with Swamp Walk.
Okay, so that's
it's
all right.
it's fine. It's got evasion, whatever. But you can cycle it, which is you discard it and draw a new card. And the cycle cost for this guy is pay 2 life. So you don't have to use any mana
To
draw a
cycle
card.
to cycle
Yeah.
it.
Which
And
is really good.
It puts a creature in your bin, and yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it was largely irrelevant in Modern Masters draft, but
But really
there we are.
good if you're playing, a dredge deck.
Tribal Flames was pretty sweet in the domain, or in most decks actually. Tribal Flames is 1 and a red for a sorcery with domain. Tribal Flames deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. So even in just like a red-green deck, this will be 2
damage.
2 damage for 2, which is actually fine.
Yeah.
It's not amazing, especially for modern.
It's also,
No.
but I mean, it's not instant, which is a little.
Yeah.
It's certainly worse
when it's not in the domain
when
deck.
it's not in the domain deck. Because like, if you can deal 5 damage for 1 in a red,
That's pretty
You're
sweet.
pretty happy that it doesn't matter that it's a sorcery speed at that point. It's just
And it's
that's
easy
fine.
to cast, which is
Yeah.
an advantage when you're going for the full domain deck, right? Because it's only 1 red instead of 2 or something, like a lot of those red burn spells can be. However, it's not amazing. I mean, I wouldn't be like, wow, I could get 5 damage off with this. It's like, well,
Also, I like the flavor text from quote from Joyra. Is it Joyra?
I think so.
Yeah. Fire is the universal language.
Nice.
Executioner's Capsule is a black artifact. It's an artifact that casts for a single black mana. This is from Shard of the Valara block. And for 1 and a black and tap and sacrifice Executioner's Capsule, destroy target non-black creature.
This card was fine.
So you play it for 1 black, and then it sits there as like, I can Doomblade anything at any time.
Yeah.
I can pay 1 and a black and sack this to get a Doomblade.
So be
target
ready
non-black
for
creature.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, there is, you can use that with threat of activation, but you also have to remember that you probably won't surprise anybody with it.
I mean, sometimes you did just pay 3 mana and be like, play capsule, sack capsule,
Kill your dude.
right? Sometimes you just did that.
Yep.
Well, we were talking about how Frogmite was kind of unexciting in the artifact deck. You know what was great in that deck?
Oh, I love this card so much.
Esperzoa. I remember this is one of the cards that interested me a lot when we first started playing again. I was like, a blue artifact? I don't understand. It's 2 and a blue for an artifact creature, jellyfish. It's a 4/3 flyer for 3 mana, a 4 power flyer for 3 mana.
Yep.
What's the drawback? At the beginning of your upkeep, return an artifact you control to its owner's hand.
But if you're in the affinity deck,
That's
that's
not a
probably
drawback.
fine.
It's like, okay, I have to keep picking up my spell bomb and then putting it back into play for free because I have.
Like a million other artifacts.
Well, no, the spell bombs don't have affinity, but there's oh shoot, I can't remember the name. The Mechanist, Fairy Mechanist.
Oh yeah.
Makes artifacts cheaper.
Cost 1 less or whatever.
Yeah, 1 colorless less, I think it is. And so you can just, if you have, I guess it's 2 of those guys. 1 sec. How much does Fairy Mechanist reduce the pulse? Is pulling it up. Reduces by 1.
No, that's
Not thinking of
Not
we're
thinking
thinking
of
of the
Mechanist.
wrong card entirely.
Right. It's something in the set. Oh no, it's the it's a Vedalken. It's a Vidalken guy. I
honestly
can't
cannot
remember.
remember.
There's something in the set that makes artifacts cost less.
Yes.
So you can do a thing where you just keep picking up your spell bombs and putting them back into play for free, and meanwhile you're beating the crap out of someone with a 4/4 flyer
Yeah.
or 4 power flyer. Oh snap!
Well, we'll figure it out. Later.
Well, I don't think it's called Vidalken in the name. It just is one. That's
Yeah.
Anyway, we have a foil perilous research as well, which is neat, and a goblin rogue token for. This is the fairy marsh flitter.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
It makes goblin rogue tokens. 1/1 black goblin rogue token. But our rare, pretty exciting, is a figure of destiny.
Oh, this card is so good.
It's a 1/1 for 1.
But more. But wait.
Oh, is there more?
Oh, yes.
There is indeed.
So,
it's a
you think
1/1.
1/1 for one. I've been told that's bad, and that's true.
It is.
However,
but it's a 1/1 for Boros, which is a single white or a single red mana.
your choice.
You can then pay 1 red white you can pay a single Boros mana to make it a 2/2 Kithkin Spirit. That's neat. If you've already done that, you can pay 3 Boros mana to then turn it into a 4/4 Kithkin Spirit Warrior. If you have done that, you can then pay 6 Boros mana to turn it into a 8/8 Kithkin Spirit Warrior Avatar with flying and first strike.
Hooray! Yeah, this card's ridiculous.
This
So
card is a
you play it on turn 1.
frickin' tank.
Turn 2, you probably power it up. Turn 3, you can power it up again, and then later you make it pretty crazy. And this was, as Alex just brought into the room, actually, this was referenced basically on a card in the new set.
I feel
Fate
this is a
Reforged.
spiritual reprint.
It is. They said, well, not reprint, but it is like the guy, I can't remember who actually designed it, but he said that it was specifically meant to reference Figure of Destiny. Is the Warden of the First Tree.
So Warden of the First Tree is a 1/1 for 1, except he's green. And for 1 and an Orzhov hybrid, so that's white or black, you can become a human warrior with base power and toughness 3, which is really good. And then for 2 Orzhov, if Warden of the First Tree is a warrior, it becomes a human spirit warrior with trample and lifelink. So it doesn't get bigger, but now it is a spirit with trample and lifelink. And then for 3 Orzhov for 6, so cheaper than this Figure of Destiny?
No, the 6 mana. It's just he's just easier.
Just easier to cast. If Warden of the First Tree is a spirit, put 5 +1/+1 counters on it. And Warden of the First Tree, of course, is different. But what's really neat about the last ability for Warden of the First Tree is you can keep doing the
Yes,
last
you
one
can.
over and over again.
How big was that one that killed us
Oh, it was
when
huge.
we were playing this weekend?
It was very, very large.
So yeah, it's interesting comparing these just straight across because
I mean, they both end up at 8/8s.
Yeah.
At the end.
the first 2 abilities are more expensive on the Warden, but they're easier
To cast.
The first one is just more expensive flat and not easier because it's just an additional colorless. But the second one is 1 colorless extra, but it's replaced a colored mana with a colorless, so it is easier. But I like it goes Kithkin Spirit Warrior, Kithkin Spirit Warrior Avatar. And the Warden of the First Tree goes human warrior, human spirit warrior, and then just a human spirit warrior with 5 counters on.
Yeah.
Just bigger.
It just gets huge.
Yeah, so both those cards are good. I think is the moral of this story.
Yeah, it turns out Figure of Destiny was really good, and Warden of the First Tree is really good. In fact, Warden of the First Tree is a mythic.
Yeah. I mean, Figure of Destiny would be absolutely printed at Mythic now. So
Yeah. So, yeah. That.
Oh, you found the guy. What is it, Paul?
It's the Ethereum Sculptor.
Oh, thank you. And it makes
and it's 1 less.
artifacts 1 colorless less. There we
Oh,
go.
thank you, Paul.
That was
going to
driving
bother us for at least another 10 to 20 seconds.
Yep. If you're interested, because I saw you looking for it, I know that the thing that has like 5 subtypes definitely is an archer, and I'm pretty sure it's a centaur. Anyway,
We can worry about that later.
so yeah, so we were playing. I mentioned we were playing a lot of Fate Reforged draft this weekend. We were a bunch of us went up to a literal cabin in the woods, which is why we left you with the Jeremys and Kata to tell you about Vintage, and. There's internet at the cabin in the woods. Because,
not great internet.
No, but
good enough for Magic.
good enough for Magic.
Oh, so much Magic got played.
Yeah, we. Well, I don't know. How did your drafts go?
They went okay. I'm trying to remember them, actually. I drafted... I feel like I drafted 3 times. And
I think that's about what I did.
they were all 8/4s, just because I felt like I didn't want to. There was enough going on at the cabin that if I scrubbed out the first round, I wasn't going to be sad. There was more things to do. I could just hang out with all of our friends. So I joined 3 8/4s, I believe. I won 1, and I lost in the second round on the other 2. And the one I won, I played a super aggressive red-white, just small little like 2-3 drops, attack.
That's a fun deck.
So looking through the book here, I know I had the Abzan Sky Captain, and that was at the higher end of the curve.
You top out at 4.
I had 2 of the heel cutters. I had a couple of the Mardu Scouts. I think actually the highest converted mana cost. Oh, was I splashing black? No, that was a different one. I played Mardu at a different draft. And I still love Mardu. Mardu's the greatest. I still want to play with the Brutal Horde Chief. I want to open that guy so badly because he looks completely insane.
I know that Graham and I did, was it Triple Fate? Mm-hmm. We opened him, and I was like, we need to splash for this guy. And I was very insistent, and it was the right choice. That card's amazing.
Yeah. That wasn't Triple Fate. That was a pre-release sealed.
Oh, it was a pre-release sealed.
We were Jeskai. Splashing Brutal Horde Chief. But you can activate, but Jeskai is perfect for Brutal Horde Chief's activated ability.
Yeah. No,
it's red
sweet.
and white.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was great.
But,
I mean, we didn't get him every game, but the game that we did get him down early, he won us that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that card's great.
Oh, you found him, Paul.
Yep.
Seton Scout.
Yeah, so there's the Seton Scout, which is technically a Centaur Druid. But then when they did the revamp of all the types a few years ago, he gained Scout Archer as well. So he's a Centaur Druid Scout Archer.
Right, because anyone holding a bow or a crossbow became an archer.
And also he can block flying creatures. So
Right, and it says Scout in his name.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's only 4. I thought there was one with 5, but I'm pretty sure this was the one I was thinking of, yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, no, it was a super... Dash is ridiculous. Especially Dash on that heel cutter. Because if you go...
if you can keep someone even slightly on the back foot with Dash.
Yeah, because it's like if you can go turn 2 Scout Dash, you hit him for 3. And then the next turn, you dash out the heel cutter. And if you can get... what's the 1-drop 2/1 in white?
Oh, the Mardu Woe Reaper.
I did not have the Woe Reaper, but if you do, that's insane. Because if you can go turn 1 Woe Reaper, turn 2
Scout.
Yeah, Scout, turn 3 heel cutter, and tap down there and stop their only blocker from being able to block. They're what, at like 9 already?
Yeah, no, it's gross.
On turn 3, and it's just like you have a really hard time coming back from that. Even if they can stabilize and get their creature count back up, as long as you can stay a couple creatures ahead, you're in really good shape. So,
there are 10 actually, because turn 1 you play the Woe Reaper, nothing happens.
Yes.
Turn 2 you dash out the Scout,
So
because presumably they don't have an early creature, and you hit them for 5.
Yeah.
Then on turn 3 they play a blocker. Then you dash the heel cutter, hit them for 5 again, and then you can play your. Then on turn 4 you can play. Hardcast your Mardu Scout and probably another 2-drop, and then the next turn just play heel cutter again.
Yeah, it's pretty redonkulous.
Yeah, we did that on stream actually. The 2-color. Actually, this is what I found overall. I've been very surprised by Fate Reforged in that even though it is only 1 pack, because it is the first pack you open, you're a lot more likely or able to go with just 2 colors.
2 colors, or instead of a full, what I've seen is a lot less full-on 3-color clans, but either 2 colors or 2 colors with a small splash. You're actually splashing maybe 2 or 3 really good cards in that sort of off, your off color. If you're doing Mardu, maybe you have a couple really good black cards that you want to play, and you're just splashing those few black cards, but you're primarily red-white. It's the same with I know one of the premier archetypes that a lot of people have been playing is the red-blue tempo deck, which is super fun, and a lot of it's actually a really fairly straightforward deck to draft, which is really nice. But
what sort of stuff goes in?
Man,
what sort of stuff from Fate Reforged?
From Fate Reforged, you have stuff like Aven Surveyor. You have stuff like I would play Frostwalker, no problem.
Bathe in Dragonfire.
The Lotus Pass Chin is really sweet.
It's mostly just a lot of early bounce and removal stuff like Whisk Away. And things
Whisk Away, and
then you get to the late game. Not even late game. You get to the mid game, and you've been able to keep them so off aggression
Yeah.
by killing their creatures or bouncing their creatures or keeping their creatures tapped down.
Yeah.
That then you just sort of
Like-
hammer through with maybe some creatures with prowess, probably some flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, you at that point you can cast like a bigger flyer. I think the dream scenario is like a big river wheel aerialists or something like that because those guys are huge.
Yep.
So I actually, before we move on,
yeah.
that's something that I've really noticed about what Fate Reforged has done. Jeskai is so much better now.
It sure is.
I have definitely noticed that. Like before, the Jeskai decks were okay, but they were a little clunky. I would say they were vulnerable to disruption.
Yep.
You would if you killed one linchpin creature, or even just they got off to a slow start, they never quite were able to catch up and beat an Abzan deck or even a Teamer deck or something like that. But Jeskai just has gotten so much better with the Fate Reforged pack, and I think Teamer has gotten a lot worse. That's my read on the
Worse.
format.
Interesting.
Green is boring.
Green is boring.
In Fate. I'm just looking at it right now in the
some
spoiler
really
book.
powerful cards,
There's some
though.
really powerful cards, but they're all like Warden of the First Tree, obviously really good.
Yes.
Teamer Sabretooth is insane.
Teamer Sabretooth is probably the best non-rare green card.
Yeah, but the green cards that really want you to play green are the rares and the uncommons. Like all the commons, I'm just like
They're okay, but they're
none of
not
them
a
are like
really great reason to go into
one
green.
of my cash defenses. That card's insane. That's the 2 and a green for
Bolster 3.
bolster 3, which is just ridiculous. Like if you get out a 2-drop and bolster.
We got ruined by that.
Like if you play an ANOG guide turn 2 and you just have a 2/2 for 2, and then next turn you go cash defenses, all of a sudden you're facing down a 5/5
on turn 3.
on turn 3, and there's so little that you can do about that for a long time in most decks. Like you're going to basically be taking 5 or chump blocking for a while.
But I mean,
if you want to be able to kill that thing.
yeah, I mean, obviously, those are good cards, but those are uncommons we're talking about, and the green commons are okay, but they're not amazing.
No.
Like
And,
Whisper of the Wilds is sweet.
I'm not saying they're all bad,
But that's
I'm saying they're okay.
That's the only one that I really like.
Yeah.
Like Whisper of the Wilds is the only green common that I'm like, all right, this is sweet.
I'm happy to be putting this in my deck. And the
The
thing,
rares that aren't Wild Call are pretty crazy.
yeah. Now the thing is though,
Yes.
what I found the problem with a lot of Teamer decks now is that Teamer is big beefy guys on ground, which is great, and there's some great spells as long as you can get a big beefy guy. But it's like the Jeskai deck now. It's a little bit more susceptible to being disrupted, especially with bouncing and stuff. And the problem being that it's super weak to any flyers because
well, I
there's no
mentioned-
creatures with reach or anything.
To your first point there, I mentioned Wild Call as being pretty unexciting.
Yeah.
we were James and I were playing a game, and we were like, "Uh-oh, what's this?" And our opponent starts tapping out everything, and we're like, "Holy
Yeah,
crap,
that's
what
right.
is this?" And then they put Wild Call where X equals 7 on the stack, and we're like, "Holy crap!" Oh wait, oh, it's just a
7/7.
It's a 7/7 dork that
it's
I
a
can.
9/9.
It was the 9/9, yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so I'll
okay.
block
And
it.
then no, they went end of turn, and we're like, whisk away or no, bounce, force away, or Aven Surveyor.
Yeah.
It's Wild Call is so easily disrupted by so many cards.
And I feel like that's the. Anyhow, that's my sort of overall meta read on the format. Interestingly enough, I just listened to the episode of Limited Resources with BDM and as the guest, and they're talking about how it's really shifted to a Prince format, where the rares and the uncommons are what you want in this format. The commons are
Not a really
okay,
good rares, yeah. Well, you were talking also about
but mostly the rares, I think.
we're talking about green. I think, and I am happy to debate this, but I feel that green has the worst dragon,
Yes.
the worst uncommon dragon, and the worst siege.
Which is the worst dragon?
Destructor dragon.
It's a destroy target non.
It's a 4/4
Creature
for 6
permanent?
flyer. When it dies, destroy target non-creature permanent.
oh
It's
yeah, that's
still,
by far the worst.
still a 4/4 flyer for 6. It's still a dragon, which
And I mean,
is
you can get
totally
somebody's rune
fine.
mark with it, or one of their sieges or something. But I mean, what you really
Or
want is
a land, I guess,
creature.
but already on turn 6.
No, I mean, but
I guess.
I feel like if a color is not going to have the best dragon, it's going to be green, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that flavor-wise, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's the third green dragon ever, and only the second one that's mono green, I think.
No, really?
No, not the third green one. There's only one or two other. We looked this up. There's only one or two other mono green dragons.
I mean,
there. It's weird.
dragons aren't really Green's thing.
And Frontier Siege is like you get, if you pick cons, you get 2 extra mana at the beginning of each of your main phases, right? So you get 4 extra mana a turn, but it's split up. But you had to spend your whole turn 4 to cast the siege. And what do you like? I guess you can go turn 4 siege, and then turn 5 you get to play a land and then play a 7-drop. But it's like, what are you going to do? You wild call for something big? Like, there's honestly not anything that's that expensive that you need to spend your entire 4th turn.
No, I mean, this
playing the
card is
siege on.
good, but it's not good in draft.
Or if you pick dragons, it's basically useless because it's whenever a flying creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can have it fight target creature you don't control.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Apart from the 4/4 dragons or the rare dragons, there's no flyers in this format that aren't going to also die as a result of that. Mm-hmm. It's terrible. Anyway. Mm-hmm. I also did some drafting this weekend. I think I also did 3 8/4s. I might have done something else with Cam. I watched Cam draft a couple times.
I definitely watched Cam draft a couple times, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that I didn't win any of the 8/4s, but I did make it to the finals, and I lost in round 1, 2, and 3 over the 3 of them.
Did you do that in succession though? Did you lose round 1 and then learn something, and then lose round 2 and then learn something, and then lose round 3? Oh.
I think it was like round 2, round 3, and then round 1. What happened when I got just rolled in round 1?
Okay, well, you were playing a sweet Jeskai deck, which was heavy on the removal and the cool spells, but a little light on creatures. You got completely overrun in the first game of the first round by a Mardu deck with like Goblin Heel Cutter and like dashing out creatures.
Right.
Basically, very similar deck to you were playing, James.
I got dashed on.
And then the second game, you kind of got a slow start in the first game. The second game, you got a better start, and you were completely like, the guy got in a lot of early damage, but you totally managed to like hold him off, and you were starting to stabilize the board, and you were bouncing his creatures. I'm like, you're going to win.
Totally in
this is
control.
great. You were in a good position. You had flyers. He didn't. You didn't have creatures. You still had stuff in your hand that you could play. It was fantastic. Then he cast Pyrotechnics and rolled over you.
Yeah.
Oh, Pyrotechnics. That card
Pyrotechnics
is
amazing.
That card's really, really good.
It's kind of crummy to be on the receiving end of.
In case you're unfamiliar with it, it's 5 mana. Yeah, 4 and a red. Sorcery. It deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. And if you're playing Jeskai, as I was, you can almost assuredly get 2 creatures, sometimes 3 out of that. If
I don't know. Did he 2 for 1 or 3 for 1 you?
I think he just 2 for 1 me, and then
just.
I think he did like 1 toughness, 2 toughness, and then 1 to me.
And then rolled over you with his remaining creatures. Because you're in the position, though, like you're like, all right, I can just trade off for these creatures, then play a bigger creature, and then his guys are effed because you had a bigger creature in your hand to play next turn, and you had more like removal.
What I also learned through those drafts and from our stream yesterday, James, is that you are still in this format. You are still very, very dead to untap. Tap 5, cast Aerostorm.
Yeah.
You're still super, super dead to Aerostorm.
Yeah, that
a
happened
lot
twice.
of the time. Yeah, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It was just
we
like...
stabilized, things were looking okay. We were definitely down there, but things, both games
see
that
light at the
happened.
end of the tunnel?
Well, not even light at the end of the tunnel, but just light at the very,
our opponent had a Mystic of the Hidden Way, and we had a lot of answers in the deck, and we're at 8, so we've got like 2 more turns, like because 8 to 5, and then to 2, and then it's finally lethal, and it's like untap, attack for 3, take you to 5,
and then
Aerostorm
you out
with raid
8 damage.
Yeah, and they're like,
okay.
Cool. They have the alt. They have
that's the alt art
Mystic on Gatherer now.
Interesting. I was like, what card is that? That's the card that I know.
Cool.
I was so confused.
I like the alt art better, actually.
I do, actually. I really like the Mystic.
What other cards? We haven't talked that much about. There's some cool black cards, actually. I haven't had a chance to play with Soulflare yet, but man, do I want to. Merciless Executioner, I'm a big fan of. Mm-hmm. This the 2 and a black for a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature.
So I really like that from the position of like just a 3-mana. Like a 3-mana edict. Assume that you're going to not keep the Executioner. But I find myself in really awkward positions with that thing where it's like, if you don't use it on turn 3, somehow they've made a warrior token or a goblin token, and it's just trash.
Oh yeah. It definitely gets worse, but man, I still like that card.
I feel like the two like ideal use cases for that card are either on turn 3, as long as you're going second and they've played their more for whatever, and just like no ep, no creature for you, or late in the game after a bunch of hard blocks have been made, and then you follow, you've attacked, things have died and traded off, and then they've made some choices and stuff, and all of their good creatures are left, and then you bring in your Merciless Executioner, and they're like F, right?
Douse and Gloom. Douse and Gloom is a very good, very good card.
Very good.
2 and a black, deals 2 damage to target creature, and you gain 2 life. It's so good. Like it can just by itself kill something. You can make the block and just finish off a bigger creature. But yeah, I like that card a whole lot. Ghastly Conscription. There's a card that we got to play with the other day.
I heard about this deck
for our bi-weekly MTGO Academy video, which you can go find over at mtgoacademy.com.
Yeah.
We drafted
First pick this.
We drafted Triple Fate because, why not? We're going to be goofy. And we first picked this because we're like, well, we have to. It's a silly mythic rare, and we got to make it work. And we made it work. Round 1, game 1, we made this thing go off. I think we got like 8 or 9 manifest creatures off this card.
It was ridiculous. We're playing stuff like Sultai Skullhunter, which is the 2/1 for 2 that you mill yourself 2 when it comes into play.
Yep.
And so like do that, aggressively trade them off.
Yep.
Just try and get all the creatures in your bin. We were manifesting stuff and trading that off. We were the Mind Scour Dragon to mill ourselves.
Yep.
What's the other one? There was another sort of self-mill thing in there. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I can't remember. We basically built exactly the kind of deck that can only exist, I think, within Triple Fate. Like this card, it does not work in limited. It's a very goofy, silly rare that you should not first pick. But we figured if it's going to work in Triple Fate, and I think we drafted basically the exact deck that
should have worked.
That should have and maybe worked. Go check out the draft. Go watch it. But man, it's a very silly card. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying just standard Fate cons. I think there's often the last time that I can really think back to when we went from large to small large, where it kind of fell flat was Innistrad Dark Ascension. When Dark Ascension came out, I felt like Dark Ascension certainly didn't add anything to the format, really. It sort of took away from it, but I've been a very big fan of what Fate has done to cons. And I'm
super like
I'm really looking forward to drafting how is it? It's going to be Fate Dragons?
So that's what I thought. I was positive that they had said that.
Is that not how it works?
Someone in the chat, in our stream chat, told me that they had said that at one point, or at least someone had, but apparently it is actually Dragons Fate.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, sort of.
I liked the idea where you started with where it flipped. There was a pivot because Fate Reforged is the pivot point.
Yeah,
where you drafted Fate cons and then Fate Dragons. I like that idea, but apparently that is not how it works. I was positive that's how it works.
That's interesting, but they've never done that before, though, right? They've never
pivoted. No,
they've never done the yeah. So I'm excited to do the dragons
but this is different too because typically it would be. When you say typically, like they try to mix it up all the time now, but it would be cons, and then Fate cons, and then Dragons Fate cons.
Yes,
right, because that's how Theros block was.
Or it could be Dragons, which is what Rise of the Eldrazi was.
Yeah,
and Avacyn Restored was that as well.
But no, apparently it's Dragons Fate, and cons is one way or another. Cons of Tarkir is not in the draft format once Dragons come.
That's very interesting. Like, I'm super excited for that. And they confirmed or denied or whatever, is Dragons back to the wedge? Because I know that they said they were very clear about this when they announced the set that or the block.
Announced the block that it was a wedge set but not a wedge block.
Correct.
Yeah. They have not confirmed or denied anything. I mean, I'm sure we'll find out soon because it comes out in 5 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
My inner Vorthos says that it is going to be a wedge set.
Like, do they kick off? They've got
Because it'll go because it's like the future of Tarkir, and so like, well, I don't know actually, because if you've been reading
it could go in a Shards direction.
well, I mean, here's the thing: if you've been reading the little stories on the on Gatherer and stuff like that about like Tassiger, Uncharted Realms, Tassiger the Golden Fang, things don't seem to be going well for some of the clans if dragons are sticking around. So maybe it won't be.
Yeah,
it could be very interesting.
Didn't like something happen and Tassiger was like, "Hey, Silumgar, I'm really sorry, but and then Silumgar just eats him.
Yeah, dragons don't give an F about what you think.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll come back and there won't be all these separate clans. Maybe it'll be a more unified place because they will have to rally against the dragons.
I suspect they will start spoiler season at PAX East.
Yeah.
No.
I think.
No?
Way before that.
Will they?
Pre-release is March 20th.
Oh, wow.
Oh wow.
There's no way that they start. I think they start spoiling probably
Like 2 weeks from now?
or a week. Like, it's got to be soon because So pre-release for Dragons of Tarkir is March 20th, which is 5 weeks away.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Jeez.
5 weeks. So there's no way that they can wait because PAX East is 3 weeks away.
Jeezy
so
crazy.
there's no way that the spoiler season is only 2 weeks.
Blah.
Right? So spoiler season for Dragons of Tarkir probably starts either next week or the week after. And then they'll probably hype up Modern Masters 2015, which comes out, we
May.
were looking this up, May comes out May 22nd.
So they're
is
going to have
when-
to roll pretty quickly into spoiler season for Modern Masters 2015 then.
Yeah, and then I know they're also planning on talking about, and we can roll into our next topic, Magic Origins
Which comes out in July.
I think they've actually said during the Pro Tour that at PAX East on their panel they would be talking about Magic Origins, which as
Right.
Kathleen just said comes out in July. So it's a
It's a
busy time for Magic. Like 3 sets.
You like
we still
spoilers?
we still
Oh,
have
man.
4 sets. Like, we're February, so we have a lot of the year left. 10 and a half months, but we still have 4 sets to come out
oh yeah, that's crazy.
between now and the end of the year.
So-
and one set already did come out, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's 5 sets this year. That's insane.
Now, is Dragons a big set or a small set?
I believe it's a big set. I can find out.
Because that'll definitely be interesting
for standard.
for standard, but for draft. If you're drafting small set, and then different.
No, it's
small
large set. Number of cards,
it is.
264.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if small. I don't think they actually do that, right?
Yeah.
Even if it is 2 different sets,
Yeah.
mixing them up, I don't think would work super well.
So speaking of those other sets, we still basically know nothing about Modern Masters 2015 except that.
Well, except that they've changed
Emrakul.
it from it's not Modern Masters 2 or it's Modern Masters 2015, which leads many people to speculate that the Modern Masters may come out every other year at this point.
Well, it's just easier to name it that than Modern Masters 2. Like they did that with Commander as well. They did Commander, and then they were like,
Because it wasn't
wait.
it wasn't Modern Masters 1, it was just Modern Masters.
Yeah.
So
But then, so Magic Origins. What precious little do we know about Magic Origins?
Well, we've seen the expansion symbol.
we've seen the expansion symbol. They've told us that it is, so it's basically a set about the origins of all of our favorite planeswalkers. So I
and
know
other stuff like
other stuff too
it's
as
gonna
well,
Be like
but-
a bit of a nostalgia trip.
Yeah, but nostalgia for information that we don't know about, right?
Kinda.
Well, we don't really know that much
Yeah.
about like Liliana's past or Jace's past or Gideon's past or Chandra's
Nissa's.
past or Nissa, which is,
Yeah.
I believe, the 5 planeswalkers that they're going to be touching on
Yeah.
in Magic Origins. But I know that when WotC announced that this would be the last core set, a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, it's going to be Magic Omega because Alpha and Omega,
that's so bad.
and it's going to be just filled. Obviously, we can't put a lot of the cards that you would love to see because they can't print a lot of those cards anymore. But everybody's like, it's going to be this big, awesome set with a whole bunch of old cards and big nostalgic trip.
I think it still could be, just not what people were thinking.
This seems to me. This seems a lot better. This seems like because they talked about this on the stream during the Pro Tour this past weekend, that this isn't the end, it's a new beginning, and I think that's a really good way of doing it. So I'm really excited to see what's happening with it. So a lot of people, I know the big speculation is we will see the planeswalkers that the 5 planeswalkers that we just noticed.
But as legendary creatures instead?
Well, I was going to say as planeswalkers, but also as legendary creatures. So both versions exist within the set.
We can find out. Well, I mean,
that would make sense.
Like one of the things they did spoil. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to say the other thing that they did say is that there are more new cards in this set than in any other main set
Yes.
they've
Oh,
ever done
wow.
before.
Yeah,
So it's definitely not going to be a all nostalgia set.
No, it's going to be a bunch of new stuff, which is really exciting.
I think sort of like how Future Sight was, that they'll have a lot of those new cards will have references to a lot of older cards.
And they'll be like, I think they're supposed to be like more centered on the actual planeswalkers too. So it'll be more about stuff that they were doing.
Yeah, the cards will be there to tell the story of how the planeswalkers became planeswalkers.
And that's again the other thing that they mentioned was that the cards tell the story a lot more than they have ever done before.
Yeah.
Which is sweet. Yeah, like one of the very small things that we know is that they showed some art of Liliana back before she became, Big Lily, and our favorite black-aligned planeswalker. She was a lady in a very modest white dress.
She was a healer.
Yeah.
They said that on the stream. Yeah,
that's
that
great.
She used to be a almost like a white healer person.
What turned her to the dark side?
We will find out. One of my favorite. They will never in a million years do this, but one of my favorite things that some people on Reddit were saying that they should do is we see them both in their legendary form and their planeswalker form, but it's a flip card, a double face. So on one side you have the legendary, and then for some reason you flip it, and now they're a planeswalker.
That actually sounds terrible.
It sounds
irritating,
horrendous, and awesome at the same time, and I love it.
Reason that would not work? When it flips over, it is not entering the battlefield, so there wouldn't be loyalty counters on it, so it would die.
I'm sure they could figure something out.
They'd have to rule it.
Yeah.
The simpler version of that I've heard is something happens and exile this card, search your library for the planeswalker card, right?
That would be so weird for limited play, though, because what are the chances of you getting both the legendary creature and the planeswalker? And now you just have this card that...
I'd like to see this sort of more like Venser, where it's just a cool legendary creature.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like these will be legendary. Like, do you remember the old school of legendary creatures? Like, what's her face? You've got a red deck built around her.
Oh, Jaya.
Jaya. Like that kind of legendary creature that's got sort of a pseudo planeswalker ability.
Yeah, I can
right?
see
Like
that.
something like that.
And they have sort of said something that the like igniting your spark as being a theme too. So the sort of creation of planeswalkers does seem to be a thing. So I don't know. We'll see.
So we'll see the origin of these planeswalkers. So here is my personal stupid Vorthos guess.
Okay.
That because everybody's like, where's Jace from? And you assume he's from Ravnica, but he's not.
He just lives there.
He just lives on Ravnica. My personal dumb Vorthos bet. We'll see if I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. Jace is from Earth.
I was going to say
he's from here.
He's from 1980s America.
Yeah, and he lives on Ravnica because it's the closest thing they have to Earth.
That would be so bad.
I know it's stupid, but that's my personal Vorthos guess.
I'm imagining this like the Masters of the Universe movie, where there was the 1980s thing of if we're going to make a movie about a fantasy world, the way that we do that is teens from the 1980s find some magical way of going to the fantasy world.
How cool would that be?
And so it would not work in Magic at all.
No.
That's why I'm saying it's a dumb idea, but it's still my guess.
We were talking a lot on stream the other day, Paul and I, about Planeswalker High, that they should, on April 1st, they should be like, so here's what Magic Origins is all about, and it's all the Planeswalkers at a high school.
Oh my God.
We did, I don't want to get into it now, but we did a lot of world building on basically, I think we went through, Paul and I in the chat went through basically every Planeswalker, working out what their like stereotypical teen movie / teen sitcom character type would be.
Hey, Wizards, if you think this is a good idea and you're like, boy, but we'd need somebody to write this. I'm really good at writing sitcom characters and comedy, so let me know. Just give me that Planeswalker High property. I'll turn in something magnificent.
Urza was the principal.
Yes!
Urza was that seems right.
Who
Was Nicol Bolas superintendent?
probably did we what did we say for Bolus and Ugin? I can't remember.
Maybe Bolas is like the mean English teacher or something like that.
And Ugin's the cool French teacher.
No, Ugin was the guidance counselor, I think.
Right.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. And Karn was the groundskeeper.
Karn was the groundskeeper.
Oh, Karn. Sweet.
And it was.
I feel like he could also teach shop.
Yeah, it was a deep world that we created.
Yeah, wait. Was
That should never exist.
Yeah.
I think
Johnny like a junior and was like Giselle like the captain of the football team like senior or something like that?
I think we were talking about how a Johnny should be the mascot, but the mascot is not a cat. He's actually wearing a different costume.
awesome.
Yeah, he just like takes off the like giant foam head and it's a
And
Johnny
it's still
inside.
a Johnny underneath there.
So here's what we do.
It's like the Suntail
I
Hawks.
like how we're not going to get
team.
into this, and then we just discuss
Whatever.
it. For like
But
3
here's
minutes.
what we do. We go out and we go buy all the pop vinyl figures of all the planeswalkers, and we just make this ourselves.
I like that plan.
And we just do it. All right.
So, I think that's it for Tap
Yep.
Tap for this week, though. All right. So, Tap Tap Concede, as with many things that we do, is made possible by your kind support on our Patreon at patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. So please go check that out. And, let us know what you think. And we'll be back next week to talk about more things Magic, but I don't know what yet.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Maybe we'll have some spoilers to talk about from Dragon.
Maybe. Who knows how quickly they'll start those.
Actually, I'm going to say right now there is a very good chance that next week's Tap Tap Concede will be delayed slightly because we're heading over to Vancouver on Thursday night for the GP. So what we'll probably do is look at recording Tap Tap Concede next Monday after the GP as sort of a post
As sort of our GP report.
As our GP report.
Yeah, there's a chance that we might be able to do something like we did in Portland where we record something there. There's a chance, but I'm not going to promise that.
Yeah. So just
Definitely
keep that in mind. Tap Tap will come out next week, but it may be a couple of days late. But we think it'll be worth the wait.
Yeah. So, if you're going to be at GP Vancouver, come see us and say hi. We'll be around.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll probably be playing mostly in side events.
Yeah.
So that means you can draft with us and hang out and have a good time. If you live near Vancouver and you're like, do I want to go to a GP?
They're
I don't
super
really
fun.
play
The answer
Modern.
is yes.
The answer is yes, because side events, man.
Yeah.
Draft all day. They have like $5 drafts like early in the morning.
I don't know if they will here. They have at previous ones. There's like an early morning special if you're not playing the main event and you start drafting in the first 2 hours of the main event. It's like cheaper drafts. I don't know if they're doing that at this one, but I've seen them do it at other GPs.
Yeah.
So anyway, GP Vancouver, come and say hi if you're there. If not, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you for listening.